Where is the devil right now? Part 1, Question 1. Do you believe the Bible is teaching anything on Satan's whereabouts? Question 2. Is there a period of time on God's timeline where Satan, the devil, and his demons are removed from the earth? In Revelation 20, verse 2, Satan is taken out of play and locked up. After a period of time, he is released again. Revelation 20, verse 7. In this time period, there is no demonic or satanic activity on the earth. Do you agree? Let us read it in context. Revelation 20, verse 1 to 10. And I saw an angel coming down out of heaven, having the key to the abyss, and holding in his hand a great chain. He seized the dragon, the ancient serpent, who is the devil or Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. He threw him into the abyss, and locked and sealed it over him, to keep him from deceiving the nations anymore, until the 1,000 years were ended. After that, he must be set free for a short time. When the 1,000 years are over, Satan will be released from his prison, and will go out to deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, and to gather them for battle. They marched across the breadth of the earth, and surrounded the camp of God's people, the city he loves. But fire came down from heaven and devoured them. And the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur. That gives us only two options. Pay close attention now. Either we are living in this time period right now, what we call partly preterism, or the book of Revelation is describing a future event, what we call dispensationism. The way I see it, the Bible clearly teaches that this time period where Satan and the demons are removed is now. If you should be in doubt, read my book, Jesus Delayed. Revelation 18 and 19 describes events such as the destruction of Jerusalem that took place before 70 AD. Revelation 18:2 and 22 describes the next event, the binding or removal of the devil, Satan, and the demons. Consequently, Satan and the demons were bound in 70 AD and still are. We are going to look at this timeline. And we start looking at Matthew 24, which is Jesus' prophecy of what's going to happen to disciples in their near future. And it starts with a question from the disciples. What is the sign of the end of the age? The end of the age is the end of Judaism. In King James translation, it says the end of the world, which is totally misleading. This has nothing to do with the end of the world. This is the end of Judaism. And Jesus answers, there will be rumors of wars. There will be famine. These are the birth pains. Birth pains are, as we know, something that comes just before the main event. And Jesus says to the disciples, you will be persecuted and put to death. Not very good news for them. But he continues, the gospel of the kingdom will be preached. And we know the good news was taught all over the Roman Empire at the time. Then the disciples ask again, when is your return? And Jesus answers, when there is great distress, the worst in history, but it will never be as bad again. Then Jesus says to the disciples, you will see it. This generation that Jesus is talking to in year 33 will not pass away until it has all happened. And as we know, a generation is usually about 40 years or a little bit less than that. The next big event on this timeline is the cross. Year 33, when Jesus died on the cross. Then we move forward to year 56 AD. And it is the Apostle Paul that is writing to the Romans. And he is writing the book of Romans describing how we are to live the Christian life. And as we get to chapter 16, he greets about 25 different people, and then he has an encouraging news to the disciples. And he says, Satan will soon be under your feet. Interesting statement. Soon, what does that mean? Well, according to the dictionary, soon means without unnecessary delay. And soon cannot mean 2,000-3,000 years later. We move forward to year 65 AD, and Daniel in chapter 7 describes the 3.5 year of tribulation that starts. 68 AD, Revelation 19:11 tells us that Christ returns with his sword to judge Israel and Jerusalem. That is an event that the church has not necessarily picked up on. Jesus came back in 68 to judge Israel. And how do we know it was 68? Well, we know that the Antichrist was Emperor Nero. And Jesus came back, and the first thing he did was to kill or do away with Emperor Nero. And he died June the 9th in 68. The next event, year 70 AD, we read about it in Revelation 18, the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. That is a historical fact that has been recorded by several historians, and particularly by Josephus. He wrote 5 books on what is called the Jewish War that ended up with the destruction of the temple, just like Jesus has prophesied in Matthew 24. And if you look at the time period from 33 to 70, we are talking about less than a generation. Also in 70 AD, major event. We read about it in Revelation chapter 18 and in chapter 20. And we are talking about the binding of the demons and of Satan. Major event. That is the beginning of the kingdom of God. Well, in fact, the kingdom actually came with Christ, and it came even stronger at his death and resurrection, but the kingdom had fully come by 70 AD. And we are now in 2016 living right in the middle of this kingdom period. Yes, in the future, Satan will be released for a short period, as we already read. But the point with this timeline is to prove, without any doubt from the Bible, that the kingdom period started at 70 AD. It's still going on, and Satan and the demons are bound right now. Like it or not, it is a biblical fact. Satan and the demons are now bound and are not operating in the world at this time. All the evil you see and experience comes from man's evil heart, not from Satan. It is unbelievable to me why so many Christians fight for the right to keep Satan alive and active. You should think having him bound should be good news to us. We should be rejoicing, especially since that is what the Bible, in fact, is teaching. Not quite sure? Well, let us look at two Bible scriptures that include and can explain all the evil in the world. Matthew 15, verses 18 and 19. But the things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart, and these defile them. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander. How about this one? Mark 7:21-22. For it is from within, out of a person's heart, that evil thoughts come. Sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lawlessness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. Did you catch that? It comes from within, from the heart, not from Satan and the demons. There is not one evil act in the world that is not included in these scriptures. All from man's evil heart. As a consequence of this fact, there is no demonic or satanic presence in the world at this time. And I know many of you will have to play this over again and read the scriptures for yourself and pray about this. But this is what the Bible, in fact, is teaching. All the so-called demonic possessions can therefore be 100% attributed to mental illness or schizophrenia. Part 2. Demonic possession or schizophrenia. or mental illness. Most of the following presentation is compiled from many articles online, including Pastor Stephen Waterhouse and his book, Strength for His People, and from Dr. Roy Clements' Cambridge paper, Demons of the Mind. I have also included some of my own reasoning, logic, and conclusions. It is a paradox that in the Western world, most cases of suspected demonic or satanic possession is taking place in Pentecostal or charismatic church environments, and that it is the members themselves that struggle with these so-called possessions. It is also a paradox that Christianity has fully accepted and strongly encourages medical science and progression when it comes to physical health, and that is good. But when it comes to psychiatric or mental health, it is a different story. In spite of the fact that this field of medicine has taken huge steps forward in helping and treating mental illness, large groups in church, including their leaders, still prefer to blame it on devils and demons. In academic circles, psychotherapists, psychologists, and psychiatrists believe all sides of schizophrenia or mental illness can be explained medically. Maybe it's time for the church to trust these men and women that are medical experts and are passionate about helping the sick, in the same way we trust our local physicians. God is the creator of all true wisdom. He has given the doctors the wisdom to deal with mental illness. They have come a long way in treating all types of mental illness with medication and other methods that before was mistaken for demonic activity. And since medication works, in most cases, it should be fair to conclude that the problem was not demons. As far as I know, demons don't flee as a result of medicinal treatment. But let's look at what is schizophrenia or mental illness. It is wrong brain chemistry and structure, or neurobiological disorder, NBO. What brings on mental illness? So we call somatic disorders, social, physiological, and physical. It is environmental stress, trauma, abuse, and war. It is social deprivation, loneliness, isolation, and bullying. It is guilt, anger, fear, shame, and depression. Deficiencies in thiamine, tryptophan, niacin, calcium, and vitamin D. It is a result of all types of drug use. It is poverty, wrong food, lack of food, pollution, parasites, venereal diseases. And when the body grows, shift in brain structure in teenagers. Who is affected by this illness? It is women and men. It is rich and poor, young and old. It's people from stable homes and unstable homes. But it's more women than men, especially young women. And it's more people in third world countries than Western societies. What are the symptoms or outward expression of mental illness? Behavioral disturbance, multi-personality disorders, self-harming, shaking, eyes rolling back, hearing voices, bad dreams, speaking with different voices, speaking nonsense. 4 of 10 long-term hospital beds are taken by schizophrenia alone. This obviously is a huge problem. Haiti voodoo has all the symptoms of mental illness, but even mentally sick people, in some cases, seek attention. Demon-possessed gives in some cultures attention and status. Some that have been interviewed say that they play the role, and as good magicians, they bring some information that no one knows or understands. I have been very impressed by magicians on a stage that perform things that is hard to understand, but is rooted in skill. The way I see it, successful exorcism is not the devil coming out, but Jesus going in, because prayer works. Mental illness is shrouded with shame and stigma in our society. Any person and family will avoid this diagnosis at any price. You can become an outcast, even in church, and excluded from the social life and the labor market. Some will therefore prefer the diagnosis demon-possessed. Then you are invaded from the outside and not at fault. You can say, the devil made me do it. I did not do it. Unfortunately, the church buy into this belief because of wrong Satan theology, and some priests specialize in exorcism. A woman's testimony. The voices are demonic? ? And this is Helen's story. For many years, I thought the voices I heard were demonic. I even thought Satan himself was talking to me. I'm still not entirely convinced that they were not what I thought they were. But even if they were, my medications have sent them all packing. It sure looks like demons can be treated with medication. Well, we know better. They were not demons in the first place. The way I see it, if you think you saw a demon-possessed person being set free by prayer or exorcism. You in fact have witnessed a mentally sick person being healed and set free by Jesus. Praise the Lord that He still sets people free. Hopefully, you now have a better understanding of how these things work. There is no shame at this point of changing your mind. The good news is, Jesus is the healer of all sickness and diseases, physical, mental, and even the wrongful diagnosis of demon and devil possessions. Jesus gives us an important commandment: love one another. Every believer understands that we are to love and help the poor and the sick. But many have a problem knowing how to love the mentally ill. They are mostly ignored and excluded because they are not on the winning team. This may be a little sarcastic, but if they are labeled evil and demon-possessed, we don't even have to love them. Instead, we can hate them, talk bad about them, judge them, with Bible in hand. After all, we are to fight against the devil and his cohorts, right? No, we are not. We are to love them as Christ loved all the sick. Church, wake up. The devil is imprisoned. In conclusion, Satan and the demons abound on the earth right now. So consequently, they cannot possess anyone. So-called demonic possession is mental illness. But beware. Sometime in the future, Satan will again be set free by God from his prison for a short period of time to deceive the nations. But I don't think we are there yet. Continue praying for the physical and mentally sick. Jesus is their healer. Thank you for listening. My name is J.E.Gulbrandsen. And if you want to read more, learn more on this topic, please go to my website, jesusdelayed.com, and you can purchase my book, Jesus Delayed.